It is the National Day of Mourning. Neil Johnson with you through this hour and joined by my friend and special colleague, Mandy Warby. Hey, welcome along.
Oh, it's nice to be with you, Neil.
You know, there's a certain sense when we talk about mourning, a heavy-heartedness. Not everyone will be feeling heavy-hearted in the same way they did when they heard the news of the Bondi massacre. But today is one of those days, isn't it? Revisiting even some of the emotions of a heavy heart.
Yeah. You know, there's nothing, you wouldn't look at mourning and think, wow, I really look forward to that. It's not the kind of thing you look forward to. Mourning means that you are dealing with loss and sorrow and grief, and we all experience at different times. But nationally, what happened last December to our Jewish brothers and sisters in Bondi was horrifying, and it rocked the nation. It's important that we grieve together. It's really important that we mourn together, because it's actually, by doing so, we're building unity, and we're recognising that something horrific happened and that we're drawing a line in the sand as well and saying we're not going to accept anything like this ever again. And that light is going to win because we're coming together as a nation. It's very important.
You know, we've got some wonderful guests to introduce listeners to this hour. And I really take a humble enjoyment in the fact that we have one of those visitors to our conversation who has got a very, very close connection to what has happened in the tragedy of Bondi and the massacre, Rabbi Isaac Riesenberg, who's the founding rabbi of Melbourne's Central Shul Chabad, one of Australia's largest and most vibrant congregations. And he is very close to what has happened on that day and no doubt still feeling much of that pain. Rabbi Riesenberg, a special welcome along.
Thank you so much, Neil, and Mandy, and it's truly it's gratifying and really humbling for me to hear your thoughts and that you've given airtime to this particular important moment in Australian history. So first and foremost, I want to thank you.
Rabbi, you are very close to what happened at the Bondi massacre. Even you had family members who were there. Just connect us with where you were on the day and how this is affecting you now.
So I was in Melbourne, but I'd planned an early Monday morning flight for a very good project, which we celebrate the festival of Hanukkah at the Great Synagogue with Christian friends every year, and we had the event planned for Thursday that week. What was so gratifying to note was that, look, at the beginning of the week we had 150 people registered, which is a good result, but after those events on Sunday in Sydney, over 500 Christians and Christian leadership came to the Great Synagogue to share the spreading of light and the Jewish people's pain at that time, and the Anglican Archbishop came as well. So that was extremely gratifying. On a personal note, perhaps let me begin. Let me read I've got two children in Sydney, David and his wife Shoshana. So he dropped his children off there, and then he went to park his car on Bondi Beach, which is a challenge at the best of times. And what happened was, by the time that he returned, the police had already cordoned the area off, so he was obviously very anxious. So just to highlight the contrast of that night, my daughter-in-law, together with and her children, my grandchildren, all four of them, managed to escape the perimeter, and actually a non-Jewish couple took them in and kept them there safely until the danger was over many hours into the night. So certainly for that we're very grateful.
Rabbi, undoubtedly you've been able to talk to David and Shoshana since then. Are they still very shaken by the ordeal? You could even say there would be a traumatic effect having been a part of that massacre.
Look, it's a good point that you're raising. I was up there that whole week. It was palpable. You felt it in the community. I was actually speaking to a professional colleague yesterday about how to address the trauma, and he actually shared with me this is going to be generational. It's something just going to be etched in the psyche of those who were there. Look, obviously, people get on with their lives, but one doesn't expect being shot at Bondi Beach at a religious festival. I think that would be the furthest thing from all of our minds, and particularly there were so many young children there. It's going to be a lingering trauma. But again, we, the Jewish people, are resilient. But the main thing is that we have to ensure that a thing like this never, ever happens again.
15 irreplaceable lives lost. And somehow or other, when we're processing these things on a day of mourning, and bringing Mandy in here too, these people are not statistics. These are real flesh and blood people who are created in the image and likeness of God, bearers of his image. Absolutely. Mandy. And these people are special people.
Incredibly special people. They're part of us. They're our Aussie brothers and sisters, even the ones that we're visiting. I guess there's a part of me, Neil and Rabbi, where I see what our country has rallied now. I wish it had rallied on October 8 in 2023 so we hadn't got to this point. Having said that, thank God we have now. But, we've just talked about the generational trauma. And in my mind, my first thought, because a lot of people will say, oh, look, give it a year or two and get over it. Can I just say that for the Jewish people, we're talking about 3,500 years of generational trauma, of attempt after attempt after attempt to take them out. All of that is piled on top of each other, all of those attacks, till we get to today. You can't just get over this, which is it's so important that we, especially the Christian community, really stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters shoulder to shoulder, because they're dealing with this trauma, generational trauma. We have a big role to play in helping bringing healing and unity into our communities with them.
Speaking healing and unity and those things that we might even think of as restoration, Rabbi, is there something of a silver lining in understanding the trauma that the Jewish people have suffered with this massacre, that this may actually bring us closer to those Jewish people who are in Israel and perhaps scattered around the world still? But is there something that is unifying, even in a day like today when we're having a National Day of Mourning? Is there a silver lining here that perhaps needs to be recognised?
Look, the silver lining is that we're talking.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
The silver lining is that really ordinary Australians have demanded a national inquiry to this as to why it's happened and why, and to ensure that this does not happen again. And this really is something that affects all of us. Yes, the Jewish people have trauma, but there's an old adage, the Jews are the canaries in the coal mine. It always begins with Jews, but it never ends with Jews, and that's why we've got to put a stop to it. But I think the very fact that this happened on Bondi Beach, that great icon of Sydney and Australia, I think has brought this message home very clearly, that this evil is now not in Israel, not in Europe, but right here on the sandy shores of Bondi Beach. I just want to share with you, when I was in Sydney, my mother found a postcard. My father was a survivor of the Holocaust, and they came in the 60s. They lived in Vienna after the war for a period, and where I was born, and we came here as a baby. And she dug up a photo of me and my sister and my parents. That's there on Bondi Beach in the background, an old black and white photo. And then I turned it over, and she wrote on the back in Yiddish, December 1965, a wonderful beach, a wonderful country. She often said to me, coming here to Australia, Lloyd, it was like coming to paradise. And now we've got this counter image, really, of Bondi Beach as literally being hell on earth. We've got to reinstate that vision of, giving everybody a fair go, respecting each other, even though we've got diverse beliefs, and understanding we are all Australians living in this blessed country. And I believe that will be the silver lining, please God.
You've spent something like 4 decades fostering Jewish life, education and community, and you're known, Rabbi, for bridge building between the Jewish and Christian communities. Yeah. We didn't mention yet, and time is short, that you even lost a close connection family member, and listeners might be familiar with some of the names, but Reuben Morrison was really directly connected to your family, and his life was lost on that dreadful massacre day.
Yeah. Reuben, firstly, is my nephew's father-in-law. I knew Reuben personally. He was just one of the most amazing, vibrant human beings. He came to this country as a child refugee from Russia. And he greatly appreciated the blessings of this great country. He married another Russian immigrant, Leah, and for a number of years they didn't have children, and they finally, after I think 10 years, had one daughter, Shana, who married my nephew Joshi. You've seen the video clips that he stood up against terror. Notwithstanding he was unarmed, he ran after that man who had a gun and began throwing rocks at him. They began to shoot at him, and Shana told me when they did the final autopsy of the body, he had no less than 11 bullets in his body. But what then Shana also said to me, that so many people came over to her, that your father saved my life and the life of my children, because the gunman on that bridge there, on the crossway at Bondi, he had the rifle pointed at them, but because Reuben was distracting them and throwing rocks at the other fella, the guy on the bridge then turned away from the people and then shot him. And in those moments, many lives, children's lives, were saved. He was just an incredible human being. The irony of the story was he was instrumental in building. The community had just built a new synagogue there in Wellington Street, and many of those that were killed came from that synagogue, Chabad of Bondi, including the rabbi's son-in-law. And I was unfortunately there. I normally, when I'm in Sydney, I go there for the morning prayers, but on this occasion, I was there literally the whole day. As the rabbi gave eulogies, brought the coffins into the synagogue of Reuben and his son-in-law, Eli Schlanger, who was also instrumental in building up that synagogue. So it's been difficult, but Shana, his daughter, has been just an incredible advocate for her father and what her father stood for, and You may have seen her speak on the news and many other public occasions that she's not going to take this lying down. She wants to continue her father's fight and the values and the goodness that he believed in.
Yeah.
Rabbi, time is very short and we do have to wrap up our conversation. Tonight, though, you are speaking at a special morning event at the Crossways Baptist Church in Melbourne. Have you got an encouragement for Melbourne listeners to come along and be a part of that event?
Absolutely, they must come. And just speaking about silver linings, I mean, the pastor there, Dal Stevenson's a good friend. I mean, Dal was one of the first people to reach out to me after that tragedy in Bondi. He also made it he delivered an extremely emotional delivery to his community in the aftermath, and certainly we're honoured that he opened up his heart and his church to recognise those lives that were lost. And Pastor Mark Leach will also be joining us there from Never Again Is Now, together with Senator Andrew Wallace, who's been a champion for fighting antisemitism in the Parliament. I think it's important for people to come, to show up. Yes, we need to light a candle, we need to do a mitzvah, but to come together as a community of Jews and Christians where we see solidarity. I mean, we share that Judeo-Christian heritage, and this is certainly an opportune time that we could work together to espouse those important values that we both share, as you've alluded to, that all men are created in the image of God, and therefore life is sacred. Life is sacred.
Rabbi, it's been our privilege. And look, I don't have a list of all of the services and gatherings that will be happening around the nation tonight. 7:01 Australian Eastern Daylight Time is the time when there'll be a pause for a minute's silence. For listeners in Melbourne, of course, that one at Crossway Baptist Church. There are events that are happening in Brisbane, and I know that some of the Holocaust museums around the nation have been opening doors and welcoming people just to be able to grieve and mourn on a day like this. Rabbi Isaac Riesenberg, who's the founding rabbi of Melbourne's Central Shul Chabad, one of Australia's largest and most vibrant congregations. Rabbi, thank you so much for taking some time to share your heart with listeners on such an important day as this.
Thank you so much, Neil and Mandy.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Always good to chat and really providing this opportunity to convey this special message that Jews and Christians have to stand together and spread the light and fight this evil in our midst. And we will be victorious. The Jewish people, yes, we've had trauma and we've had challenge, but we're a resilient people. And as you know, you believe in the Bible. We've seen God's miracles with the Jewish people returning to the land of Israel, their homeland, after 2,000 years.
Amen. Yep.
Wonderful.
Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you so much. More to come. Another special guest joining us in just a short while, Bob Mendelsohn, who's the Australian ambassador of Jews for Jesus. That is coming just ahead.